That's why I'm laying out a plan to keep the internet free and open. And that's why I'm urging the Federal Communications Commission to do everything they can to protect net neutrality for everyone.
Well, it's being hailed as a great day by people like President Obama, who put out a letter thanking the 4 million Americans that wrote in to push for net neutrality. And it's being hailed by so-called consumer advocacy groups as a good thing. But let me tell you what the new rules brought about by the Federal Communications Commission in the United States mean. They mean one thing and one thing only: government control of the internet. And that is never a good thing, not in an area like the net that relies so much on innovation. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. Mark Cuban is one of the wealthiest entrepreneurs in the United States. This is a man that made billions as a tech entrepreneur. Here's what he had to say about net neutrality. He says it's going to grind innovation to a halt. If you love the internet the way you know it today, this is what you're going to have for a long time. But if you're like me and you think the best is yet to come, then you don't want the FCC involved because of all the uncertainty. Mark Cuban, tech entrepreneur, owner of the Dallas Mavericks. There's one other unforeseen consequence, or maybe it is foreseen by those that are advocating this. In addition to government control in the United States, well, this won't just stay in Washington. This is going to spread elsewhere. What does that mean? Well, it could mean the United Nations having a bigger role in regulating the internet. This is something that countries like Russia and China have been pushing for some time. But how does that happen? How does the FCC changing how the internet is classified and regulated in the U.S. mean that the UN can have a role in it? Well, it goes something like this. The International Telecommunications Union has sought greater role for regulating the internet. But the Americans have always argued no, that this is not a telecommunications service, the internet is an information service. Well, in order to bring about their net neutrality regulations, the FCC reclassified the internet as a telecommunications service on par with the telephone, and therefore they have regulatory authority over it. Well, David Gross is a lawyer, former ambassador to the ITU for George W. Bush. Here's what he told National Journal. If they were to find that internet services is a telecommunications service, that would undoubtedly make the job of my successors much more complicated. And then there's John Thune. He is the Republican senator, or one of the Republican senators from South Dakota. He's chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, and he said that this is a big problem. It seems like reclassifying broadband, as the administration is doing, is losing a valuable argument. How do you prevent the ITU involvement when you're pushing to reclassify the internet under Title II of the Communications Act? And is anyone aware of the inherent contradiction? John Thune, Republican senator. This was a 3-2 vote, and people that have studied this closely, like Ajit Pai, he's one of the FCC commissioners, they don't think that this is really needed. In fact, he called it a solution in search of a problem.
I think the most important thing that people need to know is that this is a solution that won't work to a problem that simply doesn't exist. And let me tackle the latter part of that initially. Nowhere in the 332-page document that I've received will anyone find the FCC detailing any kind of systemic harm to consumers. And it seems to me that should be the predicate for
any
certainly
kind of
preemptive regulation, some kind of systemic problem that requires an industry-wide solution. But that simply isn't here.
So what is the solution? Are there real problems out there? Well, the solution is more competition. But as anyone that lived through the days of the telephone companies being heavily regulated by government can tell you, you don't get more competition with more government regulation. What you could end up with is a whole lot more rules on what you're allowed to see, what you're allowed to do online, and how it must be produced. And that is never a good thing. Again, what does this mean? It doesn't mean a freer internet. It means government control.